What's up, guys? It's Sam here, and today I wanted to talk to you about retiring early and what is more important towards getting towards retiring early. I just turned on the light. I don't know if you can even notice a difference. Let me know if you do down below in the comments. I left my LED lights in Hawaii. So, what's better? Earning $10,000 more or spending $10,000 less? If you want to retire early and how that applies. So I want to give you my thoughts on that. You can let me know down below what yours are here before we get started. And then I want to talk about the actual retirement portion of it. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Press that red button that says subscribe. So actually, I fucked that shit up, right? So before we get into the video, why don't you press that red button that says subscribe and that little bell. That little bell is like fucking Santa Claus every day on your phone. YouTube, red and white, fucking notifies you in your pocket that I am coming. You get notification every time I post a video. Okay, now with that fucking long intro out of the way, let's get into it. Earning $10,000 more. I picked $10,000 because I feel like it's a really, really, really easy thing to do, to earn another $10,000 a year. Even just working $10 an hour, and like if you're in high school, you can get a job at $10 an hour. That's not that hard. It's 20 hours a week. If you take 10,000 divided by 52 weeks in a year, it's about $200 a week. Like, you could do that if you can get $20 an hour for whatever it is that you do, or get a job at a restaurant serving tables, or drive for Uber, or, I mean, there's copious amounts of ways to do that. And that's like 3 hours a day to do 20. If you're making $10 an hour, 3 hours a day, 7 days a week is 21 hours. So, you know what I mean? It's really not that challenging if you really want to earn some more money. I'm planning on retiring early, so these are some of the things that I think about. And everybody's always striving to earn more money, but I think shedding some more light on the other portion of it can bring some value to that conversation. And also, I don't think talking about retiring early is something that it's just so foreign to school or the mainstream that you can retire in your mid-30s and not have to work again, period. Especially if you start at 18 after you're done with school. Even if you fucking work at McDonald's, like, it's not that challenging. Okay, even if you're just making $15 an hour, like, it's not that hard. You can definitely for sure do that if you have an objective. Okay, so adjust these numbers however you want, right? 10,000. If you make $15 an hour, then you're going to work less than 20 hours a week. If you make $25 an hour as a server or bartending or whatever the case is, and if you think, oh, I don't want to do that, well, then you don't really want $10,000. Like, it's fucking simple. If you really want the $10,000, then you do what it takes to do that. Like, it's not that complex. And if you're earning another $10,000 on the side, you have to pay taxes on that. So if you pay, say, roughly 30% in taxes, that's $7,000 that you have left over. So immediately off the top, you're like, yeah, $7,000 versus $10,000, which is better, $10,000, right? And that would be correct, because if you cut your spending by $10,000, and you're like, I don't know how I could do that. I only make $32,000 a year. Well, if you're creative enough, you can do that. You know what I mean? I believe. I don't know. I was making 13 and change an hour, and I still found a way to save 10 to 20% of what I was making. So it's definitely possible. And that was just from one job. I could have easily got a second job. Excuse me. So that is one thing. The other thing is that if you're retiring early like I am, if you spend $10,000 less a year, that means that in perpetuity, right, in a few years when I'm retiring, I don't need nearly as much of a nest egg. So there was a Trinity study that, there was a Trinity study that went through, and they wanted to see how much
you could withdraw from a portfolio in perpetuity over 25 or 30 years, essentially. How much you could withdraw from the portfolio per year without actually touching the principal balance. So I think it came out to be like 3.96% over a 25 or 30 year period. I don't remember the specifics of the details other than roughly 4%. If you take the inverse of 4%, that's 25. So however much you spend annually, you could use your salary, but remember, adjust your salary quarterly if you put 6% away towards a your 401k or whatever the case is. So don't adjust for taxes because you're going to have to pay those in retirement as well. But if you adjust your spending and you reduce that by $10,000 in retirement, that means you need $250,000 less. So when you think about that, you could retire maybe a few years earlier, right? Because if, hypothetically, you needed, say, $35,000 a year to live off of, and you multiply that times the inverse of the 4%, that's $900,000, $875,000 you need to live off of to be able to pull about $35,000 off of your portfolio per year. So if you were at $45,000, right? $45,000 times 25, which is the inverse of the 4%, you need $1.125 million. So the difference in there is literally just the $10,000 less that you spend. So if you spend $45,000 per year, you need over $1 million, $1.1 million. If you spend $35,000 a year, you need $875,000. Now, when you think about it like that, in terms of how much you need to save, is it worth it to you to cut back onto your savings so that you can retire sooner, whether that's downsizing your life or whatever the case is? And obviously, ideally, you're going to do both. And if you retire, if you're going to be retiring early, there's a very good chance you're still going to be making money in retirement. Because, right, if I'm retiring at 43 years old or 44 years old, like, what am I going to do? I'm still going to be doing something that generates me income. More than likely, I'll just do exactly what I want to do. So I personally value the time way more than the money because we can't get the time back. So I would rather spend less for those reasons. First of all, it's just more money to start with, right? $10,000 after taxes is $7,000. $10,000 of savings is $10,000 of savings. Right off the bat in year one. In retirement, it's $250,000, right? So say you make $7,000 extra, in year one, and then you're like, well, I'm making a little bit extra money, so I'm going to spend $1,000 more, right? So you're gonna spend your $1,000 more because you're making $7,000 extra per year. That means you need to generate another $25,000 in retirement in your nest egg by spending that. That's how powerful it is. That's how powerful cutting back on the savings is, or the spending is. It's extreme. The amount of savings you get in terms of retiring earlier or whatever the case is tremendous. And remember, so say you have you cut back from $45,000 to $35,000 a year, and then instead of retiring, at 65, you retire at 55. Okay, great, that's awesome. You do 10 years earlier than expected, right? But you're spending less money now. So now you can go work 1 day a week doing fucking anything you want to do. You want to do being the key part there. Like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. If you want to go start a gardening show, go start a gardening show. If you want to be a personal trainer, go be a fucking personal trainer. Like, you don't have to do anything you want to do. You have the money there, right? You retired 10 years earlier. You can live off of $35,000. You already did it. You can go do anything. You can go explore whatever it is. You can sell your shit and just do geo arbitrage in terms of living in a different country. Like, you can do whatever you want, and you can do something that generates, remember, another 10 grand a year to put you back at the 45,000 if that's what you really want. But I think for me, retiring early is far more important than that 10 grand. Far more important. My time and what I get to do and my freedom is way more important than that. Anyways, if you guys like this video, you know what to do. You just tap that little fucking thumbs up button. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on terms of the savings versus the earning more. Ideally, we're going to be doing both, right? We're going to make $10,000 more and we're going to cut 10,000 so we can put away 17, right? Because that's going to be tremendous. It will allow us to get there faster because we're hitting it from both sides. Now, if we had to do one or the other, obviously the cutting the amount we spend is so tremendous. That's why I've made a couple of videos on saving over 60% of what I make. If you check out the channel, you'll see a few videos saving 65% of what I make, because at that rate, it doesn't take that long to have a nest egg to retire. You know, it doesn't. If you do the math, I think it's like 7 or 9 years in that range, depending on market conditions. You know, and that's pretty crazy because I could always, like, my worst case is that I work 1 or 2 days a week somewhere, or do some consulting. You know, or whatever the case is. So, anyways, I'd love to know what your thoughts are down below. If this is the first time you're hearing about financial independence, retiring early, like, let me know. If you have any questions about this stuff, let me know, or reach out to me on Instagram. I'm happy to help out. I don't think it's talked about enough in school at all. I don't think it's talked about enough at home. I don't think it's talked about enough at all, period. But you can retire early. Like, it's possible. You don't have to wait till retirement to do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. You just have to know that that's what you want. And the path becomes crystal clear on how to get there. Anyways, if you guys have questions about doing that or walking through that process, feel free to reach out to me. Talk to you soon. Peace.